what's up? This is Patrick. Welcome to episode 18 of the Double ETF podcast, Everything Except the Football. I hope you guys are doing great. Today I talked with Dave Festini, a veteran of the Name That Tune Zoom Room, and all around good guy. We had a great time. We talked about tons of different topics, plenty of laughs. This might be the longest episode yet, but don't let that stop you. Also, what else? We had another donation. A 3-time guest, Josh Fitzgerald, was kind enough to throw us a few bucks. Very much appreciated. Thank you. If you want to be as cool as Josh or Kevin or Carly, please feel free to do the same at paypal.me/EETFpod. What else? On Twitter, you can drop us a line at EETFpod. So that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoy my conversation with Dave Festini, and we will talk again soon. Thanks. All right, so with me today, I have the pleasure of welcoming to the show, out of New Jersey, Dave Festini. How are you, sir?
Good, Patrick. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Trying to survive another week.
Yeah.
You know how it goes.
Aren't we all? If they
Yes.
weren't hard enough before, they've gotten a little more difficult in the last year or so.
Yeah, a little stranger. So we know each other from the Name That Tune quiz, but
Yes.
again with the open-ended question, frustratingly vague. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm from New Jersey. I grew up in a small town called Barrington, which is a stone's throw from Philadelphia. So I am a Philadelphia sports fan, although of all the sports teams in Philly, the biggest one is an Eagles fan. I love music, and I'm a singer, and I play the drums, and I have a very unique, crazy ability to identify songs very quickly, which is, how I ended up in that Name That Tune group.
Yeah, we know about that gift,
Yeah.
a blessing and a curse. I mean, I don't think it's ever been negative for you, right?
Not at
Like,
all. That whole thing's been a blast, and I enjoy. It's just something that I do really well for some reason. So,
But what about regular trivia?
no, and I love regular, especially music trivia. I mean, regular trivia I like, but like pop culture and music trivia, movies, TV, that sort of thing. That's my wheelhouse. I'm not, like when we watch Jeopardy, it's those types of categories that I like the best. When you start talking about like the world history or that sort of thing, forget it. I'm out. I'm a spectator.
U.S. capitals.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Okay, so you mentioned you were originally from a small town near Philadelphia.
Yes.
How long did you live there?
Oh, I lived there my whole up until I met my wife. So it was I got married when I was 24, so like 23, 24 years. Yeah.
Okay, and how did you guys meet?
We met in college. We both went to York College of Pennsylvania in York, Pennsylvania.
York College. Okay, so I guess I don't think I've ever heard of it. So I guess that's not a Division I powerhouse, right?
No, we didn't have a football team, so it was a very small. It was a very small school.
So what was your major?
I majored in speech communications with a radio TV concentration.
Okay, and so I guess it was always your goal to work in that industry.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. I always wanted to be a DJ when I was a kid. So one of the things I wanted to focus on was like radio and television. I had a radio show in college, and our TV facility. The year before I graduated, they built this gigantic, beautiful television building, a whole building dedicated to the communications department, and this gorgeous television studio. And like my 3 years there had been spent in the TV studio, which was literally below the gym, in the basement of the gym. So
Nice.
I got as many hours in that new TV studio as possible, but I would have liked it to have been there when I got there my freshman year.
Yeah, you almost won want to fail your last year so you can spend more time in the new
Right.
studio.
Tank all those classes so I can
Yes.
spend more time in the new studio.
Exactly. All right. So your college. How many students go there?
Oh boy. If I had to guess, just right off the top of my head, I'd say somewhere in the 5,000 students, maybe.
Okay.
I honestly, I should know and I don't.
That's okay.
Maybe it was many, many, many years ago, Patrick. I have no idea.
That's all right. And well, I'm gonna segue into a very rude question. May I ask you how old you are?
I am 48 years old.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, we are the same age.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, awesome.
You look a lot younger than me.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, I mean, but how can I say? But you rule the Name That Tune quiz, so lose some, win some.
I guess. I don't know if I say rule. Because other people win all the time.
Yeah, but I think you've won 1/3 of the games or something crazy like that.
This past Sunday was, I think Carrie said it was my 14th win. So
okay, so
it's a lot.
So about between 1/3 and 1/4, I guess.
I don't know how many. Do you know how many games we've played total?
It's been 1 year.
It's been so
recently, so 50-ish. Welcome to a math podcast. Yeah.
Mathematics with Patrick.
Yeah. So your college, what made you choose to go there instead of elsewhere?
They accepted me.
Okay.
My grades were not the best in high school. So I think I applied. My brother went to Glassboro State in New Jersey, which is now Rowan University.
Okay.
I don't really remember if I applied there or not, but it was either there, and I applied to York because I think we had gotten something in the mail, and it looked really nice. And I'm not sure if we may have visited it prior. I think we did. I think we visited it and really liked it. So I applied, they accepted, and I went.
That was
so
it.
There was no college. Like right now we're going to different campuses with my son. He's 17. So we've started the college tour. There was no college tour with me. It was York or bust.
And was it far away from your hometown?
It was. I think it was somewhere around 2.5 hours. Maybe like 2 hours.
Okay, that's not bad.
Not bad.
So did you stay on campus or?
I did. Well, my freshman year, you had to. So I was in a dorm on campus, and then I was lucky enough my sophomore through my senior year to land. They were apartments, but they were on campus. At the time, they were like the best housing you could get. And I met a friend at the radio station who needed 3 roommates. So, it was me and a couple of my other friends jumped on it, and we lived there for 3 years. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
So you mentioned you also had a radio show in college. Was it part? I guess it was part of the curriculum.
Yeah, I don't know if I had to actually have a show, but it was certainly part of the department. And and we had like audio classes that we had to take, where we had to cut promos and do that sort of thing. I don't think I had to do a show. That was just something. It was like an extracurricular thing, and I loved doing it because I always wanted to be on the radio. So I think it was 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. every Thursday, I think was my normal slot.
Oh, nice. And was it like a music show or just talk?
Yeah, no, it was
both?
definitely a music show. I mean, I think the format of the station was generally like a modern rock alternative type of thing.
Okay.
One of my roommates and still a really good friend of mine was the program director. So he ran the station. So
nice.
I got away with playing just about anything I wanted, which at the time was basically rock and a lot of hair metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you, like here we have the CRTC, it's like the Canadian FCC. Did you have any restrictions when it came to playing this or that?
It's so funny that you bring that up because I had my FCC license laying around here. You couldn't play, like the basics, right? Like we couldn't know foul language. You know, you were playing all the edited versions of things or figuring out a way to take the stuff out. I think a lot of times there may have been like a button. Wasn't like a dump button, but it was like a button where you could basically cut out the audio from going out.
Okay.
So I can remember, knowing where the swear words were and hitting the button to get the swear word out of whatever I was playing. But
okay.
Other than that, and I think from time to time we had to read, like the emergency message where if, there was a nuclear war, they were going to tell you where to go, like you had anywhere to hide.
Wasn't that quaint?
Yeah, right. If you can hear this noise, you're screwed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Say your prayers.
But we did have FCC licenses. Like I said, it was laying around here somewhere not too long ago. But we did have to get a license. But I think it was like a teaching license or something. It wasn't like the real deal.
Okay, but I had no idea you had language restrictions.
Yeah, no swearing on the U.S. airwaves. Not the FM band, not the FM or AM band anyway. I know that with like Sirius satellite radio, it's a whole different game. But for FM and AM, yeah, no swear words.
Okay, that's a dumb question. But what happens if someone slips up and drops an F-bomb? Do you get hit with a fine or warning or?
In my 4 years, I don't think I ever saw anyone get hit with a fine. I think you would get called into an office and spoken to, and I think the worst they would have done was maybe, taking your show away from you. But that would have been the school. You would have been suspended, or maybe ultimately, if you were a repeat offender, they would take your show away. But I don't think the law was going to come and. I don't think I can't remember any fines. No.
Okay. And how long did you have that show? What was the show called?
It was called Little Dave's Bait and Tackle Shop.
Oh my God. You don't strike me as the fishing type.
No, there's absolutely nothing to do with fishing. Every summer my family used to go down to Cape May, New Jersey. And I think on the way down one day, and my parents, I love them to death, but like it was always the scenic route, man. They could turn the shortest trip into an epic journey. So we were like on back roads, and we passed this place on the way down there, and I'm fairly sure the name of the store was Little Dave's Bait and Tackle Shop. And I was like, nice. Well, there you go. That's the name of my radio show. So yeah, that was it.
Okay. And how long did you have that show?
I'm pretty sure that by the end of my freshman year, I was on FM. There was an FM station and an AM station. Station. I think it ran on the campus, like closed network. Okay. I don't think you can get it off campus, but the FM station you could get off campus. And I think by the end of my freshman year, I had an FM show. If not my freshman year, my sophomore year. So it was at least 3 years.
Okay. And okay, so you mentioned AM and FM. What was the range of that station?
Well, when we were there, it was at 88.1, which to most of the people listening probably it's the bottom. It is the frequency that's most used when like you buy something that you stick into your iPod or your iPhone so that you can broadcast it locally to your FM radio. Like, I don't even know if you can go lower. You might be able to get to 87.9. I don't know, but it was super low. And you could definitely get it on campus, and you could get it kind of off campus. It like went in, I think it reached to the city a little bit, not very far. And then not long after we graduated, for some reason, they weren't allowed to use 88.1, and I think they jumped all the way up to 98.7, which is like a legitimate frequency. So we were all jealous, and I think it went further then for a while. But then eventually they got kicked back to 88.1, which is where I think they are now, WVYC.
Okay. Well, actually, I had a show during college as well, a sports show, and the frequency of the station was and is still 89.1. Okay. So I guess maybe that's the thing. Like all college stations are at the bottom of the
for whatever reason, those college stations I think operate in that lower frequency. Probably because the higher ones are all taken by actual radio stations. So
Probably. And like college stations never have a big range. So
Right.
they like, you're not going to be in the way of another college station, 150 miles away,
Right.
I guess. What was the name exactly of your major?
Speech communications, radio TV concentration.
Okay. So in that, how much would you say was theory versus practical applications?
Within my major or at the school?
Both.
Because and now my daughter's in her second year of college, and my son is, we're doing the college tours, like I said. And I always felt like with college, way too much time is spent in classes that you just don't care about. I had...
True.
I mean, this is why I'm so bad at Jeopardy. I had an intro to Western civilization class, and it was like, come on. I mean, if that's your major, if that's at least what you're interested in, I totally get it. But I knew that I was never going to be a history major, wasn't all that interested in it, and he was like a snoozer. And I had tons of classes like that, and I always felt like that's how colleges, it's just the way they make money. Like 2 years or however many semesters of classes that I just wasn't interested in. I would have much rather either spent that time in classes that were directly related to my major or, cut my college career in half and just spend time in classes that were in my major. So I don't know, off the top of my head, it was probably about 50-50, maybe a little more, maybe like 60-40, 60% of my classes fell within my major. And that included like mass media classes. And I think it was called persuasion and all these other kind of media related things. But as far as like classes where I actually got my hands on equipment, I don't remember that. I had I may have had 2 TV production classes. I think I had 2 radio production classes. And then outside of that, like the most I was getting my hands on equipment was just hanging around the radio station. And that was all basically extracurricular stuff.
Yeah, I guess a big part of your training was on the job, quote unquote, via the radio station, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, we had projects that we had to do in those radio courses, whether it was, cut a 30-second public service announcement or whatever. But a lot of the stuff that I did, were cutting like promos for my radio show or, that sort of thing. So, I mean, the radio station that was not, with the facilities were pretty good there. Even the whole 4 years I was there. Of course we were using reel to reel tape recorders and everything. There was nothing digital there at the time, but we had a huge board, and like I would just go in there and play around. Being a member of the radio, I probably could have done it simply because I was a radio TV major, but working at the radio station, I had access to that stuff all the time. So I would just go in there and mess around.
Nice. And you had complete control over, as you said, over which songs you could play.
It was completely, that's what I mean. Like there was a play, the other DJs, I think for the most part had songs that they kind of supposed to stick to a format. And there was no format going on with my show. I was all over the place.
So was there some restrictions or not, depending on the time of day of the show?
I think that's a good question. During the day, maybe they were expected to stick closer to the actual format. And I know that we had some shows that were like educational shows or were talk type stuff. I don't really remember though. I was just so focused on either my shows or friends' shows at the time, which were all music.
Okay. Oh, God, I had a question. And of course, I forgot about it. It's been a long day. I got one. I got another one.
All right.
You mentioned that your daughter now studies at York? Right?
No. She's at Millersville. She's at a school in Pennsylvania, but it's Millersville University. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what is she studying?
She is studying to be a teacher. She's actually a history major, which is strange because of how many times I've slammed history already in the last 30 minutes or 20 minutes. But she's technically a history major, but she wants to teach middle school history.
Okay. And what about your son? Does he have an idea yet?
He wants to be a physical therapist.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, we're looking at schools that have a good, PT programs. So,
Hmm.
that's a big one. That's I think it's a 6-year program he would have to
Oh,
go do for something like that. So,
okay.
yeah, I'm impressed with that too. I was not as clear about. Actually, that's not necessarily true. I was pretty clear about what I wanted to do my senior year of high school. But I mean, these are much more, I don't know, more serious professions that they want to go into. So my wife and I are very, very happy with them.
But I mean, it's still. I think I've mentioned that to another guest. It's still a young age to decide what you want to do.
It absolutely, I completely agree, and you know, it's tough because you don't necessarily want them going into school without any direction, but you feel it almost feels unfair to expect a 17-year-old kid to know
Mhm.
what he wants to do for the rest of his life. So,
Yeah.
I've always told both of them that I want them both to be happy in their professions, right? I want them to wake up on Monday morning and want to go to work. Because
Hmm.
they enjoy what they're doing or they're fulfilled by what they're doing. So as long as they're doing that, I'll be happy. I just want them to not, wake up on Monday and be like, oh, back to work.
Like we are.
Yes, exactly. That's pretty much it. You caught me.
That's okay. We are in the same boat. um, One thing that would be better, I think, but it might be difficult to implement, would be the idea of making a break year more standard
Mm,
in the curriculum,
yeah.
like taking 1 year off to, travel or explore or do, community service or volunteering or, something like that.
Yeah. My wife went to school for education, and she's a director at a preschool. So Julia's gotten my daughter's name is Julia. She's gotten a little bit of a taste of it because she has worked at the preschool, although those kids are much younger. And with Matthew, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get him, and he called around at a couple of physical therapy places to see if he could either do like an apprenticeship or whether it was just volunteering or helping out, or if he could even get like a part-time job working at one
Hmm.
now, so he at least gets into the environment and kind of gets an idea as to what's going on and what the work environment is and what goes into it, and maybe get some insight from physical therapists or the people who own it, so that he gets a feel for it before he goes off to school, which I think would be really, really valuable for him. But the pandemic has also kind of thrown that out of whack too,
Yeah.
because I don't think they're as quick to want someone to come in and volunteer because of the virus, and so they just got their first vaccinations on Saturday or Sunday. So
Okay.
maybe that'll help a little bit once they're vaccinated, or once he's vaccinated.
Now, time for COVID talk. How's the situation in New
It's
Jersey?
inevitable. How are
Yeah.
we? I've stopped. I got to be honest. I've stopped paying attention. Like, I'm not a news guy. I'm luckily have been able to get vaccinated, and my wife has gotten vaccinated, and the kids just got vaccinated. I brought my mom, who's 82, to get vaccinated. So,
Nice.
we're still following all the rules. We're wearing our masks when we go out. That stuff is. I've never really had a problem up here. Now right now I'm very close to New York. I'm about 30, 40 minutes outside of New York.
Okay.
And up here, like whenever we've gone to stores or, whenever we're out, people are generally wearing their masks. When I talk to my brother who lives in North Carolina, it's a different story. It's a lot more hit or miss as far as who's wearing masks and how careful they're being. I've been working at home for over a year now. So,
Hmm.
as far as people following rules, it's been pretty good up here. I think the numbers are good. I know that the number of hospitalizations has gone way, way down.
Okay.
And they're starting to really reopen things as far as the amount of people who can be in a restaurant, or like the local library today I found out is open again. But they're like 50%. They've been closed forever. So I can only assume that things are getting better, or they would not be doing all of that stuff. But as far as like my mother's like glued to the news. And I just keep telling her, I'm like, be careful, do what you got to do, but stop watching the news every day. It's just going to drive you nuts.
Yeah, it can't be good, for mental health.
Yeah,
at some point. Which vaccine did you get?
I got Moderna.
Okay, and you got 2 shots, both of you? Okay. So
my wife got Johnson & Johnson. We are an equal opportunity family. My wife got Johnson & Johnson. I got Moderna, and my kids got Pfizer. So, yeah, we're if one of them turns out to be the plague, some of us will be okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good call. Okay, so if we go back in time to you finishing college, okay, you have your diploma, you want to work in radio. What happened then?
I'm sorry. This is such a great question. So I 2 days, I think, before, either the day before or 2 days before I graduated, I asked my wife to marry me.
Oh, okay.
So thankfully she said yes. Actually,
Yes.
She said, "You asked my father, right?" I said, "Yes, I did." And then she said yes. But
threw you a curveball.
Yes. So
Old school.
Right out of school, what did I do? I went home for a little while, and then you know what it was? I had to do an internship because I was 3 credits short. They let me graduate and walk, but I was 3 credits short, so I had to do an internship in the city.
They were so sick of you that
they're like, get out of here. We're done with you and your horrible radio station or your radio show. So I did an internship at the Maury Povich show. In New York. And my in-laws were really cool. They had like a mother-daughter suite. Nancy's grandmother had lived there and had passed on, unfortunately. So they had like a mother-daughter suite upstairs. So I basically had an apartment where I could go to my internship and live up there in my girlfriend's house, or my fiance's house at the time.
It was on the island?
Well, no, it was in northern New Jersey. Actually, it was
a couple
towns over from where I live now.
Oh, okay.
So I would commute in and out. I took the bus in and out of the city.
Sorry, yeah, I'm interrupting. Where was that show done?
It was done in Manhattan.
Okay.
I think if I had to guess, I want to say it was on 38th Street, somewhere in the area of like 9th Ave. But we're talking like 25 years ago. So
I remember the name of that show, but I don't remember on which station it was.
I think it's still on. Okay. Albeit in a different, like now it's just all the paternity tests and madness. When I was there, it was still legitimate. Not legitimate. It was still a talk. It was still a talk show. It wasn't, the Jerry Springer. It wasn't Jerry Springer light. But I think in New York it aired on like Channel 9. I think it aired in syndication, so the channel varied differently from city to city.
So that was ABC, I guess, or NBC?
Now in New York, Channel 9 was either WOR or it was an independent station, or it may have been WPIX.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think it was. Oh, you know what though? It might have been on the NBC affiliate back then. I don't know. You're rattling my brain, Patrick.
Sorry. Well, I mean, we could look it up.
It's funny. I actually have there's a YouTube clip. One day they were looking for somebody. They needed somebody to go on camera and be, what was my role that day? I had to be the guy who saw a girl that he really wanted to ask out on a date, but his clothes were a mess. His hair were a mess, and I had to be the guy who they were going to quickly do a 1 minute makeover to, so that I would be able to get a date.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that video exists somewhere.
And how did that go?
It was, I don't think I ever spoke. But I got a serious amount of camera time. I was on camera a lot on that episode.
But that, in a way, that has to be hard on your ego, because if they pick you to do a makeover on, that means that the starting point wasn't that good. Right?
No, they were just walking around and they were just trying to find somebody who was willing to do it. It didn't have anything to do with my appearance that day.
Okay.
Thanks, Patrick. No,
just double checking.
They dorked me up that day. I think they went into wardrobe and they put me in a bunch of like messy clothes and then fixed me up.
Okay. Yeah. It was all fixed.
It
was all
nonsense. It's all none of it's for real.
Nice. So then after the Maripovich, how did it go?
So after that was over, I think I had a job editing wedding videos for a while. And then eventually my sister-in-law at the time helped me get a job at the cable company where I worked in the traffic department, which is like all the local ads, go through the traffic. That's how they get scheduled. So I was responsible.
So sorry, I'm
sure.
interrupting. So that's what you meant by traffic.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
not
like
traffic news, like
standing in the middle of the road with a whistle,
or in the chopper.
Right? No, that would have been cool.
Yeah,
when I was reporting the traffic. That's a cool gig. No, not nearly that glamorous. I was my job when I first started there. All of the local commercials were stored on, and by local commercials, I mean like local restaurants, car dealers, when you're watching something on cable, like let's say you're watching Monday Night Football on ESPN, right? Mm-hmm. There's all the national ads, and then all of a sudden, Charlie's Subaru jumps in. Well, those were the
and the quality drops visibly.
Yeah, and a lot of times the quality drops out. Yes, absolutely. So those local ads were stored on these reels on 3/4-inch tape, those giant 3/4-inch tapes.
Okay.
And there were row after row after row of 3/4-inch decks that had all these commercials. So there were like 2 for each network. And I was responsible for making those reels. It was,
oh, wow.
It was monotonous. And then thankfully, not long after I got there, they went to an all digital system. So it wasn't quite as bad, but I was responsible for physically putting all those spots in storage so that they would play and monitoring when they played out.
Okay. You mentioned a few seconds ago editing wedding videos.
Yeah.
I guess you must have seen some pretty weird stuff in there.
It's funny. I don't remember actually. I didn't do it all that long. I don't remember seeing anything all that crazy. There was a blooper reel that they had made before I got there, which had some great stuff on it. You can imagine people tie one on and then they pass the microphone around.
Oh boy.
But I don't remember anything crazy on the ones I actually edited. That's a great point, but I don't think I ever edited anything that was too crazy.
You know what would have been fascinating to me if I had I done that job is watching weddings of families from other countries, like Russian families.
Yeah,
how does that work?
Their customs and that stuff. And again, I don't remember anything like that either.
How long did that job last?
I don't think. I'd be surprised if it lasted more than a year. It wasn't that one. I didn't do for very long.
Okay.
No.
All right. Okay. So after the quote unquote traffic job, what happened?
From there, I moved over to the production department with the same cable company, and I started making those ads that,
okay.
Yeah. So that was actually pretty, I enjoyed that. We were, the production team that they had there, we wore every hat. So I would meet with clients. I'd write the scripts. I'd go out and shoot the commercials, edit them together. And we did everything from start to finish. And we did our best to make our commercials look good, to not be so blatantly cable.
Yes.
And that was fun. I did that for a couple of years. That I enjoyed. And then I decided to go into sales, which was a really bad idea.
Hold on to that. The sales horror stories.
Sure.
But what I was going to say is I don't think many people really know what a production department does.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit more? Can you like summarize the usual role?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the salespeople would go out and they would land the clients. They would sell them the airtime. And then once that happened, we would go out and shoot the commercials. So, we would generally meet with owners of businesses and kind of get a feel for their location and what they wanted to do, what they wanted to say, and then we would try to be as creative as possible. The problem is that, generally these local businesses want to run their commercials forever. I mean, the car dealerships, it's different, right? Because they have different promotions and the models change all the time. So, the problem with them is that they just want to be car places. But other places like restaurants or other businesses, where you might have the ability to be a little more creative, if you do anything that's really creative, it gets old. I did, what did I do? I did an ad. There was a meat packing company, right? So basically it was just a butcher.
Okay.
And I did an ad where I used my sister-in-law. You remember the old... See, now I don't know what ran up there and what ran down here, but do you remember they were Taster's Choice, right?
Yes.
Okay. And they used to do these ads where they would sneak into a restaurant and switch the coffee, right? So they would take the fancy coffee that they were serving at the restaurant and they would switch it out with Taster's Choice. And of course, the person drinking it couldn't tell the difference.
Okay.
So I came up with the idea of showing my sister-in-law and saying that she was a strict vegetarian, but that we had switched out her burger with meat from Sussex Meat Packing. And then we show her take a huge bite out of the burger, and she loves it. And then the thing is, and there you have it. Even vegetarians love the meat at Sussex Meat Packing was the stupid joke. I pitched it to them. They loved it. I shot it. And the account executive was like, there's no way we're ever airing this because A, she didn't get the humor in it. And B, she was like, it'll get old in a week. They'll run the hell out of it and it'll get old. And then they'll have to shoot another one and they're not going to want to have to pay for it. So that's the problem. They don't want to have to pay for multiple ads. They want to take the one generic basic ad and just run it and run it and run it. And then maybe in 5 years, they'll do another one. So
I don't think it would have gotten old though, but I would have seen another problem with it. Like, I don't know if back then that would have been as big a risk as nowadays. But if you try to do that nowadays, vegetarian agencies, quote unquote, would be all over you.
I think I put on there, like a fake disclaimer, like no vegetarians were harmed in this commercial or whatever. But that was an issue back then too. And my point was, who are you going to piss off? The vegetarians? They're not coming to your store anyway. So what do you care? Like if it gets if it gets the news or it gets some attention, all the better. There's no such thing as bad publicity. But
they would have found a way to be offended.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you said, back then it wasn't quite. People weren't quite as sensitive as they kind of are today. So I don't think you're pulling that off today. But back then, I think they could have gotten some.
Nowadays, being offended is a national sport.
Exactly.
So,
Yes, they would have had people picketing outside.
Yes, for sure.
The meat packing company.
But I think what I meant earlier, I didn't phrase it right. I apologize. I was surprised how involved in the process the production department is in your case.
That's right. You mentioned so I would go out and I would meet with them and then I would go back to the office and I would write a script.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Time out. Is that usual for a production team to write a script?
I mean, at that level, I don't think it's odd.
Okay.
But like on a professional level, I think you would have a team who comes up with a concept and a script, and then they would hire. I mean, I worked a little later on in my career. I worked at an infomercial company. And the idea was you met with the client. There was a script written by the script writer, and then you book a crew to come out on location, and there's a director who takes on, people fill all of these roles separately.
Okay.
Whereas at the local level, each producer was doing everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And after that, what happened?
I mean, as far as my job was concerned?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. At that point, in an effort to make more money, I decided to go over and try sales, which I was really good with clients, but really bad at getting business because I joined a sales department which already had several salespeople who were very seasoned and had been doing it forever and frankly had all the really good clients. And someone new like me comes along and they basically are given nothing. It's go out and find, go out. They give you a couple of clients here and there to get you started. But for the most part, it was go out and find new business. Well, all these other people had, there's only so much business that is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we charged, for the really good networks and stuff, we charged, it was not cheap to do that advertising. So the little guys, like the pizza shops and the really small places, they couldn't afford it. And even when they could, they really weren't getting the exposure that they needed for it to be successful. And I just didn't, the cold calling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have it in me. I was great when it came to scheduling their ads and picking out where they should air and all of that stuff and dealing with clients, one-on-one. But as far as picking up the phone and just calling people all the time, that was not that I was very bad at. So that didn't last very long. I think I did that for maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
A very painful year and a half.
So what year was that, more or less?
That was right around the time I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure it out as far as when my kids were born. I think that was probably like in the early 2000s, right? So probably around 2002, 2003,
okay.
Maybe.
If we fast forward to 2010 and onwards, what have you been doing pretty much?
So from there, that ended horribly. And I ended up actually doing my own ads for a while. I went out, I grabbed a camera and software, and I did my own local stuff. And then I ended up at CNBC as a deco operator. So it was like all the graphics that you saw on air that had text would come through our department, like our section of the department. And we would type all that stuff up and we would send it in, it would air. I did that for about 6 years until they figured out a way to automate it and got rid of us. Eventually I ended up at the infomercial company. I did that for close to 2 years. That was interesting, seeing the way that all happens with the different, products and that whole, well, you can probably figure it out on your own.
Yeah, but what was, that's intriguing. What was the one thing that blew you away while working for that infomercial company?
I think, what was the thing that really blew me away? I think just the way that some of those products were just not great products. And I think that the problem that I had with it at the time was I felt like some of the products, not all of the products were losers. Like some of the products were legitimate. A lot of the products, probably the majority of the products that we did stuff for were legitimate products. But some of them were kind of just garbage. And sometimes they kind of catered towards older people. And like, I was like, don't we feel bad? I mean, we were doing the ad for someone else, right? So I think the way a lot of the people who worked there looked at it was, we're not selling the product, we're just doing the commercial. But to me, we were also the medium by which people placed their orders. So, we were definitely involved. So that sort of thing bothered me a little bit. But the other thing that we did a lot of diet videos. So I sat through. So one of the things that I did was that I had to go through all the testimonial footage.
Oh, okay.
And watch all of these people talk about their weight loss. That was pretty wild because some of those stories, a lot of those stories were legit. Like these people were very, very overweight. And by the time it was over, they had lost a ton of weight. So a lot of those stories were cool.
Yeah, it must, I don't know, it must feel strange after a while that testimonials always about the same thing. Do you think that affected you in some way?
Well, with all the jobs I've ever had, even the ones that I've disliked, I've tried to take something away from it. What I learned with the sales gig and at the infomercial company is I kind of learned the tricks, right? I wasn't in sales very long, but I was in there long enough that when we go to buy a car, or we're in any situation where we're dealing with a salesperson one-on-one, I now know all the cues. I know all the tricks, and I know what the person is trying to do to get us to make the decision.
Okay, so now this is the good stuff. Can you give us 3 tells, quote unquote, that he's trying something there?
Yeah, I'm real good at picking out the upsell, right? So if you go in and you have a specific list of things that you want and the way that they'll try to get you to jump up to the next model, right? Or, the idea of saying, well, this deal's just for today. That's always nonsense. If you come back the next day, that deal's still there. Those types of little tricks. And the thing with the infomercial, these are things that you've always suspected, but, you see it all the time. The next 100 people who call the number will get this, right? Now, meanwhile, these infomercials run all night, all day, right? That same infomercial that you saw at 6 o'clock at night is running at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that 100 people thing is BS. It always is. So one night, while I was doing this job, my wife ordered something. She saw something on TV and she was ordering it. And she was like, I could see she was in a rush. And I'm like, why are you rushing? And she's like, well, they just said that if the first 100 people get, and I looked at her, I'm like, are you kidding me? What I do for a living and you're falling for the 100 people thing? And she's like, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. So, just stupid little things like that, right? You pull life lessons out of it.
That has to have a name, that tactic, like the illusion of urgency.
It is a call to action.
Call to action. Okay.
Yeah. Anything that tries to get you to make that decision right away is a call to action.
Okay. So after the infomercial, what about these last few years?
I've done 2 things the last few years. So my main job is back. I'm back at CNBC as a graphics coordinator, which is we've been called the air traffic control of graphics. So I don't know if you've ever watched CNBC, but we are a very, very graphic intensive network.
Yes.
So all of the graphics that you see on CNBC, there are 4 coordinators, and we're spread out throughout the day. All of those orders come through us, and we look at them and assign them to the artists, depending upon a lot of different factors. But we assign all those and make sure that they get to air, as well as, keeping track of animations and, answering questions and looking. It's a very busy. It has gotten a lot more busy the last year or so, but it's a busy job for sure.
I guess on one specific aspect, we probably hate one thing equally.
Yes, I definitely do.
Typos.
And that is one of the things that we do. We check everything that's done, gets sent to a separate, right now because we're working from home, we're working out of Teams. It gets sent to a separate queue, and we have to check everything that goes out on air.
Do you have proofreaders or?
Yeah, that'd be me.
Okay.
And the 3 other people, and depending, some other artists actually proofread too for different types of things. But for the most part, we are proofreading everything that goes out to air every day, and just making sure that headshots are right. And I mean, nobody's perfect, and it's inevitable that something happens from time to time. But the goal is to just do your best to make sure it doesn't.
Your.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That. Well, yeah. I mean, it's everything from spelling mistakes to it can get
an arrow pointing to the wrong country.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
They had maps and
Or old maps like Czechoslovakia still exists. Right. And Soviet Union.
Yeah, stuff slips through no matter what sometimes, but we have a pretty good track record, thankfully.
What's the one screw up that sticks in your mind still?
I won't say this was not CNBC. I will say that, and
okay.
And I won't say what the other network was or who the person was, just so that
because you know who was responsible for it.
Maybe I have to be careful. I don't want to get myself into trouble.
Sure. No problem.
There was let's just say there was an anchor, and the way it worked was you would, like you have pages within the machine that you're working on. Now this isn't the graphics coordinator job. This is more of a studio job. Mm-hmm. And you call those pages up and you play them out to air. And if you're building one, meaning that if you're typing one, there's a setup page that you use to type it up, and then you would either save it or play it out. The template at this particular location said read random dude.
Okay.
Right? Because this was just, that's where you were supposed to type up the name and send it out. Well, one night in like the heat of a crazy broadcast, they called up random dude and sent it to air over one of the anchors. So it's just the anchor and his lower third name says random dude.
Nice.
So yeah, that was not great. That was not, but that was easily, but that one at least is easily explained away. Yes. In that in a rush, somebody just called up a number and sent it out to air and
it's not offensive to anyone.
Exactly.
So,
no one was hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, you kind of laugh it off and, make sure, be extra careful next time or.
Right. Yeah. So that leads me to the other thing that I do is I work at a sports network on the weekends sometimes, generally in the fall and the winter and a little bit in the spring, working in the control room on with lower third graphics. And that one's fun. That job is fun just because I'm more interested in sports than finance. And mm-hmm. So in that one, it's interesting being involved in a live broadcast for sure.
You never have to, you don't have to do the research. Someone else does it.
Yes. There's somebody basically sitting next to me telling me, what to call up, what to play out, and giving me all that information to type in.
Okay, so
there's a lot of prep too.
All of that is live, so there is no room for typos.
Well, there's always room for typos,
yes.
Patrick. But we do our best to avoid them. But in a live, it's tough. In a live situation like that, where a lot of times you're sending things out that are blind, it can get a little hairy. I've made my fair share of mistakes, unfortunately.
So, can we say which sport it is, or do you do different sports at the same time, or?
It's like college sports and stuff. Let's just say that.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't talked about music at all. We were going to get into that.
It's very well. We talked about the radio at the station for a while, so that's music.
That's true. But I wanted to ask, what is your favorite sport?
Football. Absolutely. American football.
Yes. You mentioned the Eagles previously. They are still your team.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Come hell or high water. And I think there's going to be a lot of hell this season.
Well, you did win a Super Bowl couple seasons ago.
That was, I've been waiting for that one for a long, long time. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to see another one, but it was nice to have that one.
Yeah, because the previous one was in 1960, I think.
Yes, they won. They won the football championship or whatever it was called back then. But in the Super Bowl era, this was the first.
That's true.
And nobody ever wants to hear, but they won the Super Bowl championship, or the football championship. No, that never carried any weight for me my whole life.
Oh yeah, that was like with who was the guy? The guy who almost killed Frank Gifford, Chuck Bednarik.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's a famous picture of him standing over him. Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. So, okay, football. Did you have a favorite college football team?
No, it's funny. I've never really got into college football. Even today, I can't say that I have a favorite. I always tend to root for the under. I don't even watch college football that much, although I've watched it more recently now that I work at this. I've just gotten kind of a little more interested into it, and I follow it a little bit more. But I've never had a favorite. I always root for the underdog, right? If I tune into a college football game, I look at the rankings, and I root for the team that's got the lower or the higher ranking. Well,
Lower.
has the what
Yes.
I mean? Yeah, the underdog. The lower higher thing gets confusing sometimes.
All right. So we can track back to music if you want.
Sure.
So you mentioned playing a few instruments and singing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Was your family big into music?
Absolutely. Yeah. My somebody was always singing in our house, whether it was, me or my mom or my father. We were all big music people for sure.
So you grew up near Philadelphia. Was your family from there as well?
No, it's funny. My father actually grew up here and grew up in the town that my wife now works in. So where he grew up here in northern New Jersey and moved down to like southern central New Jersey for my mom, I grew up in like southern central New Jersey and moved up to northern New Jersey in the same general area, or at least I work in the same general area where my father grew up. My mother she grew up down near my hometown. The town next door, actually.
Okay. So when you were a kid, what kind of music was playing in the Festini household?
I started listening, when you get past the kids music and stuff, when I started listening to more real things. My dad used to play his like 50s and 60s 45s for me. So he had this big like console stereo that had a turntable and a radio in it. And back then you had those record changers, right? So he'd load up like 5 to 10 45s on the record changer, and I would have this little rocking chair that I would sit in front of the stereo. And I would listen to all his stuff like, Bill Haley and the Comets and Buddy Holly and that sort of thing. So I think that's where my kind of love of rock and roll started. But, he listened to all sorts of stuff. He listened to that kind of stuff. He would listen to country. He listened to standards. We're Italian, so he would listen to like Italian standards and stuff. And,
okay.
And my mom was pretty much on board with just about everything he was listening to. So it was all over the place.
That might sound like a really stupid question, but did you ever speak Italian at home?
I did not, and it was deliberate. My parents, if you ask my mom, my dad has passed away, but if you ask my mom, she'll tell you that they did not want to teach. They didn't want my brother and I to learn Italian because they were concerned that it would stunt our ability to learn English. It would make it more difficult for us to learn English if we knew Italian, which I guess at the time, I can't fault them for it. If they were afraid that it was going to hurt us learning, their hearts were in the right place.
Exactly. That's not accurate, but their heart was in the right place. Yes.
Right. But then they would use it as a code language. So whenever they didn't want us to know what they were talking about, they turned on the Italian. There was a lot of Italian getting spoken around Christmas time, which I guess was a good thing. But yeah, whenever they didn't want us to know, we went into Italian code.
Jesus. Okay. So do you know if your grandfather came from Italy or something?
Oh yeah, all four of my grandparents came over from Italy.
Oh wow. Okay, the same region,
yeah.
Do you know, or?
I think my father's parents were more northern Italy, like close to Switzerland.
Okay.
And I think my mother's parents were further south, but I'm not exactly sure where. I should know that, and I don't off the top of my head.
Must have been quite the mix.
Yeah, it was. We had our fair share of traditions. It's like around Christmas time and different meals and. What I find so interesting with it is like dialects and how, because when I moved up here, it's funny. This is a completely random story, but
it's okay. Please.
When I met Nancy, we would go grocery shopping, right? When we were in school. And she used to tell me that her favorite Italian dish was gavadil and broccoli. And I would look at her and I would be like, gavadil and what are you talking about? Like, all I've done my whole life is eat Italian meals. I have never heard of this gavadil and broccoli. And she would swear up and down that was her favorite thing. So one day we're out of the grocery store shopping, and we're in the pasta aisle. And she says to me, oh, go. And she points to like the top shelf, and she's like, can you grab me a box of gavadil? And I went, what? And I look over at the shelf, and it was a box of cavatelli. She's been saying cavatelli with this other dialect of gavadil, where they put the G's on everything. I can't stand it. But, it's like, what are some of the other things? Prosciutto becomes prosciutto. Like they cut the A's off of things where mozzarella will become mozzarella. So there's a whole different dialect that's going on in different places. And that sort of thing always interests me. Like I'll hear people say things that are Italian and I'll be like, what is that? And then I realize that they're just pronouncing it completely different. They're like, oh, that's what it is. Capicola, which is like it's a deli meat. Mm-hmm. Capicola becomes gabagool.
Well, yeah, that's the Sopranos joke.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like if you ever watch The Sopranos, there's like that whole gabagool is capicola, which is just insane.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you add on top of that a few years or a few generations almost of a exposure to the American English environment, and that misshapes the word just a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think even I'm sure a lot of it has to do with coming, with the way that it gets changed in America. But I'm fairly sure that even I've never been there, but I'm fairly sure that even in Italy, you'll find different dialects that will pronounce things differently.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay, so if we can switch gears and try back into music, what did you learn to play first?
I think I learned the first instrument that I learned to play was the saxophone. I think when I was in either grade school or middle school, might have been middle school, like fifth grade, we had to choose an instrument. Now, you know what? It might have been grade school. It doesn't matter. But I wanted to play the saxophone. I think it may have been the saxophone solo in the song Man Eater that made me want to play the saxophone.
Okay.
So I fought with the saxophone for a while and, just wasn't. I have a tendency to be lazy when it comes to these sort of things because I have a certain amount of musical talent that comes naturally to me. Like I've been told that I have perfect pitch, and listen, there's no way around it. Learning the saxophone was work. And when I couldn't actually just play it, like I thought I'll have a couple of lessons and I'll be able to play the solo to Man Eater. And then I would sit there and not be able to do it. And I just kind of gave up on the saxophone and I went to the drums because quite frankly, the drums are easy. The drums were easy for me. I shouldn't say that. The drums aren't necessarily easy for everybody, but they were easy for me because I had a certain amount of natural ability. And then with a little bit of, of teaching, I was able to play it pretty well, at least, at that level. I taught myself how to play a drum set down the road, but as far as instruments like playing in the school band or whatever, I played basically the snare drum. I played the drums.
And so that would be the instrument you're most comfortable with?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But you can still handle yourself with a guitar?
I know like 5 chords.
Okay.
I can play, I think, what is it? I Wish You Were Here. I think I can play. I mean, there's, I'm not going to get up in front of I'm not getting up in front of any audiences playing the guitar anytime soon, but I could sit here and strum you a song or two. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, my next question was, like I asked a few past guests, travel? ?
Meaning, where have I gone?
Yes.
Not very far. I think I've gone as far north as Nova Scotia, Canada.
Okay.
And as far south as like Cancun, Mexico.
Okay.
And I've been out to California and Hawaii. But other than that, it's been very local. We go to Maine, Vermont, my brother's in North Carolina, but I haven't done a ton of traveling. That's one of the things that I don't particularly like travel.
Okay.
It's one of those things where, like, when I get to my destination, I enjoy myself, but the process really, it's such a pain for me that it kind of keeps me from doing it.
I mean, I understand what you mean, but you shouldn't let it.
No, yeah, I know. I also hate to fly, which doesn't help either.
Yeah, it's not fun. That's true. But like New York, Paris is maybe 7 hours.
Mm.
And, that sucks. But then you're in Paris for however long you like. So
yeah,
it's worth it, I'd say. But of course, I'm biased. So you can tell me to fuck off, and that's okay.
No. You're 100% correct, and it's something that I think hopefully, maybe down the road we'll get to do. I'd love to see Italy, and I think Nancy would love to go. I think she's mentioned that she'd love to go to Greece. So but even in the States, I haven't done a ton of like traveling. It's always been very local.
Well, I mean, New England is gorgeous. So,
it really is. I mean,
it's okay to focus on that, if that's what you prefer,
No, we loved, we loved going. I think we might be, where are we going this summer? I think we're going to Connecticut, New Hope, Connecticut. Not New Hope, Connecticut, New Hope. Is it Rhode Island? Yikes.
It's possible.
Geography is not my strong suit, Patrick.
It's okay. So
I think I would know. Jeez.
I guess we're not going to have a geography section on trivia night when you host.
No. I failed geography in college, I think, and then I had to retook the same class, and I think I got a D. So
Jesus.
Yeah, geography.
You could have memorized the exam at least.
It was not my proudest moment.
All right. Well, that's no one's perfect. That's okay. All right. Okay, so we can track back to music again, but in a different way. Okay, I might as well ask you these questions because you mentioned that you're a sports guy. So
yes,
let's go with that. What is your favorite sports movie?
The one that comes to mind immediately, and I think this is a love it or hate it type thing, right? I don't know. I've found plenty of people who love it. I've found people who hate it. Nobody really ever seems to be down the middle. I love the movie Rudy.
Okay.
It's like one of those movies that if it's on, I drop what I'm doing and just watch the rest of it. I don't know I think I've read articles where Joe Montana was like, yeah, I don't remember, that Rudy movie isn't exactly accurate. But I love the message of that movie, that he works his ass off to get this one moment, in the sun, and the whole underlying storyline with his father. And, I say that's probably one of my favorites for sure.
If I remember, apparently in real life, the guy is insufferable. Apparently,
right. I think that's part of the problem, right? That's the thing with Montana is that he just can't. I don't think he could stand the guy or something. So, kind of sours the story.
Probably. Okay, no, yeah, that's a good shout. Do you remember a sports movie that you hated?
Sports movie that I hated.
I mean, I guess in most cases you would just, stop watching it and forget about it. But
right.
Like, do you remember one that
I don't know if I remember anything in particular. I just don't like sports movies that end, and this is going to sound stupid because you could say that you see the ending of Rudy coming a mile away, but like, the typical sports movie where it's inevitable that the home team is going to win. Like any sports movie that follows a certain formula has always bugged me. Oh, the remake of The Longest Yard was pretty terrible with Adam Sandler.
Oh, yes.
That was pretty bad.
I didn't watch it. I remember liking the original with Burt Reynolds.
Right.
And there was a British version as well.
Really?
They were playing soccer with Jason Statham was the goalkeeper, and Vinnie Jones and a few others. That was all right. But do you know if The Longest Yard, the version with Burt Reynolds, was that the original version, or did that come from a book?
That I don't know. But the Burt Reynolds one was definitely the original.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
tend to avoid movies with Adam Sandler most of the time.
Adam Sandler. See, well, I should say I was, because the stuff that he's been doing recently has been pretty terrible. But the earlier stupid, I'm a sucker for that stupid humor. So like the Billy Madisons and that stuff, I liked.
I like The Wedding Singer.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
I remember liking that one, but everything else I kind of skipped on purpose. There you go. All right. So what is your favorite sports book? Could be a biography, whatever.
You're assuming I can read, Patrick.
I am.
I got to be honest. I'm not much of I don't know if I've ever read a sports book. I like I'll read like behind the scenes television stuff, like the books that they wrote about the whole Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, battle and those types of things. But sports books, like I'm a huge football fan, but I don't think I've ever really read a sports book.
Most of the time, I mean, I guess there are many of them, but the one that stand out are few and far between. So yeah, I don't blame you for staying away from that genre.
I'm also not a huge reader, which is bad. I really should, but I just never been into it.
I'm not blaming you, because I have to read all day for work.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it takes me a real effort to read again just for entertainment, Yeah,
that's a great point. Like I spend all day reading orders and stuff. So maybe that's part of it too. There you go. Yeah, it's not that I'm not smart or it's not an intelligence thing. I just am tired of reading all day, Patrick. There you go. I got a brand new excuse.
It is an absolute factor. Like I've been doing this job for 25 years plus, and that's the one thing that bugs me, that I'm not going to say took away my love of reading, but it kind of took away some of the enthusiasm at the end of the day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, anyway. All right. So next question, if you want.
All right.
What is your earliest memory of a sports event?
Like a live event? I started watching football. So my father wasn't a huge sports fan, but my friends were really into football. So I started getting into football when I got to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched, I watched like every Eagles game every Sunday religiously. And I remember the very first time I went to an Eagles game, because the experience of like just walking up the steps and for the first time looking out onto the field was it was wild, because it was just something that you've only ever seen on TV. And to see the field and this gigantic crowd in this stadium was just this surreal, wild, moment visually, and just the experience of it and the crowd. When it comes down to it, you really are better off watching a football broadcast to if you want to see the game. But if you want to experience the game, you can't match being in that crazy crowd during a game. So like sometimes if I ever got lucky enough to go to the game, and when we got to the days where you could record them, like I would go and record it. So you kind of experience it, and then you can go back and watch the moments that you felt like you missed when by not being able to watch it on TV. So yeah, that first Eagles game was big for me.
Do you remember what year it was, more or less?
Boy. I mean, I graduated high school in 91, so it was probably like the late 80s, maybe more like the early 90s. I don't know if I got to a game until I got into college. So yeah, maybe like the early 90s.
Do you remember who the quarterback was?
No.
That was before Randall Cunningham, right?
Why do I feel like they were playing the Cardinals? So the late 90s or early 2000s. Wait, what am I saying? The early 90s.
Yes. I didn't want to correct you, but I was waiting for the next.
Well, it wasn't. It may have been Cunningham, right?
I think it fits. I think it was around that time.
Because there was Cunningham, and then there was that weird, like, Bobby Hoying. There was, like, the Bobby Hoying year.
Yes,
that went horribly wrong.
Ty Detmer.
But
that came
I think
later,
it was still.
I
I
think.
think it would have still been Cunningham. Although I think it was my freshman year of college when Cunningham, like I remember because the day on that Sunday we had some sort of orientation thing that I had to go to with my parents, and the Eagles game had started while we were in there, which I was not happy about. And I came out, and we're in a big crowd of people, and I heard somebody say Cunningham's out for the year. And I was devastated. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then that was the year that, oh my God, they were bringing in people from the hardware store, like Pat Ryan and Jack Kemp's kid. Like, I forget.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a good shout.
Oh God, that was a terrible year. Oh, it was awful. Yeah, because Jim McMahon was his backup. So they brought McMahon in, and then he got hurt. And then it was just this, revolving door of people who, you couldn't believe were actually behind center. It was bad.
Wow. That's quite the walk down memory lane. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure that somewhere Ty Detmer's ears perked up. Someone's talking about me.
Detmer was. Oh God, and Bubby Brister, like Bubby Brister was in there.
Yes, that's true. At some point, yes,
just a horrible time. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, Randall Cunningham was a miracle on two legs, but
yeah, for sure.
Was
it? I think it was Carly. Shout out to Carly on her episode. She mentioned that there was isn't there like some kind of a drunk tank in the
jail?
Inside? Jail in Veteran Stadium.
I heard Carly talk about the jail.
That's true though, isn't it?
It is true. It's true. It's true in Veteran Stadium that they put in a makeshift court. There was a judge in there, and
there was a judge.
I believe there was a judge. You would be brought down to the judge, and he would decide whether or not you went into the whatever cell was down there. I don't know. It was a real thing. It does not exist in the Link. It does not exist in Lincoln Financial Field, but in the Vet, yeah, it's true. Huh. It was not. Listen, it was not a nice place to be, especially if you were a fan of the other team.
I don't know who would want to I have two NFL teams, the Chargers and the Giants, and if I happen to be in Philadelphia,
the Giants, how does that happen?
Lawrence Taylor was one of my favorite players.
Oh my God!
And the other one was Junior Seau. So Chargers.
That's right. You did say that. You said that.
Chargers, Giants.
I'll give you Seau. I can't give you Taylor.
But yeah, I mean, if I happen to be in Philly and go to a game, I would never go there wearing Giants gear.
Right. Like I've seen Eagles games at Giants. Well, now it's, I don't know what the hell they call it now, MetLife Stadium.
I'm not sure.
But I went to Giants games in Giants Stadium. I didn't wear an Eagles jersey. Like, go enjoy the game. Don't necessarily let everyone around you know that you're rooting for the other team. Like, to me, it's silly to say.
Don't be an asshole about it, at least.
Right, exactly. If you can go, and I've been to Philly games, even with people who are in, the opposing team's stuff. And if you're cool about it and you joke about it, and it's a back and forth type thing, you don't necessarily go home with a black eye. I mean, I've also I went to a Flyers game in the Devils Stadium, the old Devils Stadium, and, I had people wave towels in my face and put popcorn on me. But it was all in good fun. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't always have to get ugly. But, yeah, I never wear the opposing team's colors to
Popcorn is kind of an asshole move, though.
I guess. Whatever. They weren't swinging at me. I mean, I've also seen people get beers dumped on their heads. And,
no, that's not cool, though.
That's not cool at all.
Jesus.
But yeah, you just don't do it. You're asking for trouble.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So if we can track back to something more peaceful, music. So same questions. What is your favorite music movie? I'm a little biased here. Please.
Because a little while back there was a documentary done called An Affair of the Heart which was a documentary done on Rick Springfield fans.
Okay.
He was very much involved in the project, so he's interviewed in it. There's a bunch of concert footage and stuff, but it basically was a spotlight on his fan base. And I got involved with it pretty early on, to the point where the documentary team, the director and they came out to the house and they interviewed me. They interviewed Nancy. They actually shot some stuff with the kids. And I am briefly in it. There's a longer version that's actually on the DVD. And we're on in the deleted scenes. Again, unfortunately it got cut out for time constraints, but I am in there briefly. You hear me in the beginning and you see me and you see the kids later on in the film. But it was a cool concept because, again, it wasn't necessarily a documentary on the artist. It was about, this crazy fan base that has followed him for so many years, and some unique stories behind some of those particular fans. So that one I have a soft spot for sure.
All right. And what about music movies that you're not in? Sounds. Have you ever seen the documentary by Dave Grohl called Sound City? Nope.
It's about, there was this music studio in the 80s called Sound City. It was in Van Nuys, California. And it was this dump of a place, but these huge names like Fleetwood Mac, and I think Nirvana recorded Nevermind there, and Foreigner, I think, they all, maybe not Foreigner. I don't know if Foreigner was a Sound City band, but Tom Petty, I think, was in there.
Okay.
And they used this board, I think it's called the Neve, that they had at Sound City. And it's basically a whole documentary about that studio and all of the memories that people had recording there. And Rick Springfield's in it because Working Class Dog was recorded there, the album that has Jesse's Girl on it. So that was just a really cool. I like those documentaries that kind of go into not so much the technical side of things, but I liked hearing about the studio and like the behind the scenes stuff that goes on during the recordings and stuff like that. So that was a really cool documentary, a musical documentary.
Okay, so you're not really, not going to say interested, but like standard movies with a narrative, but focused around music, that's less your thing?
No, I mean, I like School of Rock is a cool music movie. I liked the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. Mm-hmm. As a Queen fan, I took issue with they just played with the timeline. It bothered me.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was completely necessary. Plus, I didn't like the fact that they kind of dramatized Freddie's illness for the benefit of the picture. Like, he didn't know. They I don't want to spoil the movie for anybody, but
I think you can by now.
They altered the timeline there where they had him being sick before he was actually sick because it added to the drama. I mean, he may have been sick, but he didn't know it because it added to the drama of the ending of the film, which again, I thought was kind of whatever. I mean, anybody who doesn't really know Queen's history doesn't care, I'm sure. But to me, it's ridiculous that they have them doing the figuring out the "We Will Rock You" stomp. I think it was in the 80s. It's like, well, wait a minute. Come on. But that's just me.
Oh, it might not be just you. I'm pretty sure that movie was polarizing, if I remember.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever met anybody who hated it, but I have met people who have taken issue with it. But then again, the guy, was it Rami Malek? Mm-hmm. He won Best Actor, so it couldn't have been too bad. It was entertaining, at least,
Yeah. Okay, so, well, again, same question. Your favorite book related to music?
My favorite music book. I read I Want My MTV. Have you ever read that book?
I heard of it. I haven't had a chance to read it.
Yeah, it's all about, MTV and it's, from its infancy to when it got really popular and, all the stories that go on about how the channel was created. And there's a lot of stories about the videos and that book I really, really enjoyed.
Do you remember who wrote it?
I don't. I think there's two, right? So there's one There's also the VJ's book, and I don't remember the name of that one. They wrote one as well, which I didn't feel like that one wasn't as good as the other one. The other one, I think, was a team. I think it was two people who wrote that first one. It was called I Want My MTV. That one was really, really good. Because that story it's just a great story of how that whole thing started and just blew up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next question. What was the first concert you went to?
The first concert I ever went to was Hall & Oates at the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Nice.
On the, I think it was the Ooh Yeah tour, the album that had the song Everything Your Heart Desires.
Okay. So which year was that?
If I had to guess, I would say it was like 89, 90. I was in high school, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next question. What is your favorite or most memorable concert?
I've seen Prince a couple of times. 1, 2, 3, like maybe 4, 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
But the best one that I ever went to, I have a friend who was able to get, through work, a super box, in the garden, in Madison Square Garden.
Mm.
It's like a luxury box. And we were in the front row of the luxury box for his show in Madison Square Garden when he was, basically going through his entire catalog of hits. It was just an incredible show. It's a show that gets mentioned a lot because it's the show in which he pulled Kim Kardashian up on stage.
Okay.
And she either wouldn't dance or wasn't dancing to his approval. I either thought she was a lousy dancer or she was refusing to dance, and he kicked her off stage.
Oh, nice. Nice.
But that show was just, he was absolutely unbelievable. And that was just a great show.
All right. Next question. What was the scariest concert crowd you've ever been caught in?
Oh, boy. The scariest crowd. There was a place in Baltimore. When I was in college, there was a place in Baltimore. I think it was called Hammerjacks. And who did we go to see? See, this story is going to suck because I can't remember who the act was. I know we went down there to see Ugly Kid Joe.
Okay.
Because we interviewed them on the bus. Oh, God, I wish I had that tape. I don't remember. Damn it. I don't remember who it was that we saw down there, but a mosh pit opened up.
Ooh.
And I was like, nope. I was like, that's not happening. And I just kind of backed up and got out of it.
You're not the type.
I don't get it. Why? I don't, I've been to lots of rock concerts. I don't understand the whole.
Too much energy. You have to have an outlet, That's how I see it.
I guess. And I guess if the people who are doing it are into it, then it's fine. But yeah, that was not my deal. I was like, nope, I'm staying nice and far away from that so that I don't end up with a broken, set of teeth.
Yeah, that's the risk. That's the danger.
That's the downside.
Yes. All right. So mystery band.
Yeah, I wish I could
pit.
remember. Oh, it's going to bug me. I had to call the friend I was with and find out, but I don't remember.
That's all right. If that friend is listening right now, he must be screaming into his phone.
Yeah, right? It's like, it was this guy? Yeah, exactly. Oh,
he will let you know
remember.
Tomorrow. All right. Next question. Is there a band that turned you into a fan after you saw them live?
We saw his name is Howie Day, right? His big song was Collide, I think was the name of the song. It's more of a singer-songwriter acoustic type song.
Doesn't ring a bell, sorry.
But he came out and it was just him and an acoustic guitar, and he had like a bunch of foot pedals in front of him, like 6 to 8 foot pedals. And he would start songs. Now, this might be a little more commonplace today, but this was, like the late 90s, early 2000s maybe. And he would start songs and loop all of these sounds with just his acoustic guitar. And I'm talking about like percussive sounds, the whole thing, where by the time he was done, it sounded like there was a full band on stage.
Nice.
And it was just so cool. He would sing and he would play like the acoustic, enough parts so that it sounded like he was doing a song acoustically. But then while that is all playing and looping, he's playing bass parts on that guitar. He's hammering out like the drums with like a bass sound and it was just really, really cool. And I bought stuff of his after that, and it's a shame it doesn't translate. Like a lot of acts like that, sometimes when they get into a studio, it becomes there's just more of an electronic angle to it. Mm-hmm. Then it doesn't capture that kind of intimate acoustic sound. He did like a live EP where I think one of the songs that he did that with is on there. And that's the song that I always go back to because I was just so impressed by that process.
Nice. Yeah, it must have been pretty cool to see live.
Yeah.
Next question. What is your most memorable / favorite brush with fame? Besides the obvious.
Well, what's the obvious?
Rick Springfield.
Well, that's got to be it, right? I mean, I as a kid growing up, singing along to all those songs in the mirror or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I ended up with the opportunity to sing with him on stage.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
like I'm surprised I didn't just pass out. Like I look back on that and I still can't believe it. So yeah, to just be every once in a while, like if I remember on his birthday or whatever, I'll put something stupid out on social media, like happy birthday to my lead guitarist. And, the picture of me standing up there singing with him next to me. Yeah, that was crazy. So that's it. There's no beating that unless I don't think there's any, even if I ran in, if George Clooney bought me a beer one night and, we shot the shit for 10 minutes, it doesn't beat standing next to your idol, your childhood idol, and singing.
Understandable. So no, yeah, absolutely. So there is no number 2, I guess. There is one answer.
I mean,
one answer.
I guess. I mean, I've met people along the way, in either like meet and greets, and I met John Mayer once, but it was all very quick. I don't think I've ever really had a major interaction with anyone who was super famous.
Your first answer is hard to beat, so that's that's perfect. Next question. What piece of music memorabilia would you like in your house?
I would like, meaning like in what regard? Like I would love to have like a guitar collection of guitars that are played by my favorite artists.
One piece though.
I wouldn't mind. I'd love to have like Eddie Van Halen's guitar.
Okay.
Right. Like just, because just for so many reasons, not only because of the music that was played on it, not only because I'm a fan of all that, but just because it was just so influential, right? It was his work on that instrument that inspired so many others.
I think, wasn't it Pat's answer as well? Eddie Van Halen's guitar?
I don't know. I wouldn't surprise me if it was.
Yeah, I think it is because I think I remember mentioning you could even let Mike Schmidt touch it. Come over to your house and touch it.
Right. And then he could die happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go quick and quirky questions. Are you good for it?
Sure.
Okay. First question. Would you rather speak all languages or play all musical instruments?
It's a tough one, right?
Yes.
Because if you speak all languages, it opens you up to so many experiences that you might not have by only speaking one. And even with my love of music, like I lean towards saying all instruments because I so regret not learning how to play, like really learning how to play the guitar or playing the piano.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if speaking all languages isn't the better way to go just from the experiences, and you probably would help. I feel like you'd help more people if you knew you could speak so many different languages and just learn so much more that way. So as much as I would love to know how to play every instrument, I think I'm going with all the languages.
Same, for that same reason, it would expand the human experience that much more. So,
Yes.
there you go. All right. So question 2, if you could get a ticket to any show or event, music or sports, past or present, what would you want a ticket to?
I would have liked to have been at Live Aid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have been and my brother was there. My brother went
Nice.
in JFK. I think that would have been a really cool event to have attended.
For sure.
Just to see, just to be a part of it, because it was not only was it a great show, but it was also a very historical thing to have been a part of. So I think that's my answer off the top of my head.
You would have been to JFK. You would not have gone to London.
No, I would have done JFK only because I think I'm more from. Was Zeppelin in London, or were they in? Why do I feel like they were in the U.S.?
That's a good question. I don't remember.
Which is odd, but I think because Phil Collins,
started in London.
Flew,
yes,
and then he played with Led Zeppelin later, so they were in the U.S., which is strange. You'd think they would have been in London, but
true.
I think I was more familiar with the acts in the U.S. There were some acts in London that I didn't necessarily know.
Okay. All right.
And, that and the whole being across the world thing.
Yes. Yeah, that could be. There's some logistics involved.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So question 3, what is your favorite insect?
Oh, my. I'm not a big insect fan, Patrick. I'm trying to think of one that, maybe the ladybug.
Yeah.
Right? The ladybug is non-threatening. It's cute.
Yes.
It has some intrigue because of the fact that they all have different amounts of dots on them. And they're good luck too, right? So
that's true.
Good luck, cute, non-threatening, interesting. I'm going with the ladybug.
Yeah. What's not to like? Yeah,
right.
Good. Yeah. Good call. Good shot. And it's been an answer before. Ladybug.
Has it?
Yes.
All right,
was it Pat who
get out of
again?
Come on.
No,
seriously.
I'm not sure if it's Pat, but it's definitely been mentioned before for sure. Yep.
Well, props to the ladybug.
Yes.
Who knew?
Well, there you go. All right. So, question 4: what scene from a movie scarred you for life?
I've wanted to go back and see it again. There was this it was like a B movie I think it was called Scream and Scream Again.
Okay.
And there was a scene or something. I was little, right? It must have been on TV and
not the Wes Craven movies.
No. No, this was like a 60s or 70s type thing. I don't even remember the plot. I have no idea. All I know is that there was like a scene where they pulled the sheet back on somebody and they didn't have legs. And it freaked me out. Freaked me out. That, and there was, this isn't a movie, but there was an episode of The Incredible Hulk when I was a kid where all of a sudden, this woman's head flipped back and her, her eyes went wide. And again, I was really little. It just I remember it freaked me out so bad. I made a beeline upstairs to find my mom. And she was in the bathroom, and I'm pounding on the door, and she's like, I can't open the door. And I'm pounding. I'm like, I don't care. Let me in. So I don't know if it was particularly, it wasn't necessarily gory or frightening or whatever. But I don't know if it was more situational, but those two scenes freaked me out.
Yeah, a good shout. I've never heard of that movie, but yeah.
I've always wanted, I don't know if I searched for it on YouTube. I should do another YouTube search or something. I'm sure it's out there. And if I see it today, I'm sure it's a joke. But it may have been the first time I ever saw something like that. And it freaked me out.
Understandable.
That, in fact, my brother will tell you we weren't allowed to watch Ultraman because of me. Because it scared me.
Okay. All right.
Bastard.
Noted. Question 5. What is the best nickname you've ever heard?
When when I was in college, my roommates, I don't know if you know this, Patrick, but I can be kind of excitable.
No, you don't say.
No, not me. I'm just a calm. I'm a calm little daisy. They came up with the nickname for me. They called me the exposed nerve.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's good.
So I don't know if you're allowed to choose your own nickname, but yeah, to this day, I think my PlayStation login is the exposed nerve. Like,
But they probably shortened that to something else, like expose, the expo.
I think I got the whole. It may just be exposed nerve. I don't know if I was able to get the in there. Yeah, but it's long. It's true. It's long for that sort of thing.
But even in high school, they still called you the entire thing.
Oh no, yeah, they may have abbreviated it in college, like TEN or TEN or whatever, or exposed or nerve or whatever. But they called me the exposed nerve. Which I thought was pretty appropriate, unfortunately, especially back then.
That means that you were a 10 in college. There you go.
Yeah, well, I guess that's a positive way of looking at it.
You won the game. There you go. Boom. All right. So question 6. What would you name your boat if you had one?
What would I name my boat? See, I'm not a huge boat guy. Not that I don't enjoy. I'd probably call it the Dramamine because I get seasick. I get motion sickness,
Okay.
right? So, like, if you're moving, I've gone on like anything that moves quickly, or like a speedboat or whatever, or even like a pontoon boat or something that's moving. I don't really have an issue with, but once it stops and sits in the water and starts to rock, that's when things can get ugly. So yeah, I'd call it the Dramamine.
Good shout. No, that's pretty good. All right. So question 7, where is the worst smelling place you've ever been to?
Oh, the worst smelling. I'll tell you what.
Inside that boat when you're done puking.
Yeah, right. No kidding. After 20 minutes of rocking back and forth. Yeah. In New York City, in like the dead of summer, when you walk past the subway stations, there's just this god-awful smell that comes out, from just, people who have either decided to relieve themselves in the stairwells or thrown up or whatever. And because of the heat and everything, it's just this awful, because this was years ago. I don't imagine it's changed. But like I would walk a pretty decent distance from where I had my internship down to the bus station, and you'd go past the subway stations, and I'd literally hold my breath.
Jesus,
because it was just a terrible smell. So that's the only thing that really comes to mind. I guess I've been lucky that I haven't been in too many smelly places.
It's a bit similar to Murray's answer. If you
really? Well, I don't know if I only got halfway through Murray's the other day. What was his answer?
It was New York in the 70s.
Oh, well, see? I'm repeating everyone's answers, Patrick.
I should have had you as a guest earlier. That was the solution. That would have been the solution.
Taking my answers.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So apologies. Okay, so question 9. What's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Oof. I read or seen?
Mm-hmm. Or heard.
Or heard. Because that's where I'm leaning.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
What was the... Because I thought I listened to something this week that I really liked. But it's something I wasn't necessarily supposed to hear yet. So I don't know if... I don't know if I should...
That's really intriguing.
No, I got my hands on a release.
Oh, okay.
That has an album that hasn't been released yet. That I really, really liked. But I don't want to mention it because...
Do you know when it will be released?
I think it's coming out fairly soon.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly.
Because it might have been released by the time this airs. So, no, it's okay. I don't want you to get in trouble. So sure. That's fine. That's no problem.
I'm trying to think if I watched anything that I've been at a loss with stuff lately. I haven't been able to find anything that has really stuck with me as far as like show. And I'm like searching for a show that does that. And my son and I started watching Breaking Bad again. I've already seen the whole thing. He's never seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because even though I've seen it through the entire time, we've gotten far enough now where like we'll get to the end of an episode and I'll look at him and I'll be like, you have any homework? And if he says no, I'll be like, we're watching another one. Like I'm
Okay.
into it all over again. You'd think that because I've seen it once before, it wouldn't feel that way. But I so badly want to continue through and see the show over again and pick up on little things that you didn't pick up on before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that would be that, as strange as that would be. If we're talking recently, it would be, I will be rewatching that show again because I loved it so much.
That's the sign of a good show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there haven't been many shows like that where I've been able to go back and watch them over again. There's Breaking Bad and Lost. There's a huge Lost fan.
Oh.
I've watched Lost now. I watched it all the way through myself, and then I watched it all the way through with my son. And then over the beginning of the pandemic, my daughter and I watched it all over again. So I've watched that show from start to finish 3 times through.
So you've run out of children to watch it with. So you're going to ask the neighbor's kids.
right. Now it's the neighbor's kids or wait for grandchildren or,
Excellent. Yeah. All right. So question 10. If you were given a 1-minute ad slot during the Super Bowl that you couldn't sell, you have to use it. What would you fill it with?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, because you're reaching out to such a huge audience. I mean, the first thing I think of is to do something stupid, but you really should take the opportunity to do something of value. I think that I would probably come up with maybe some sort of public service announcement or message about mental illness, especially after what everyone's been through this whole, for the last year. I don't think there's still a huge stigma around it. Nobody ever feels weird about telling you that, you're getting an operation on your foot or, that you're getting back surgery or, whatever. But it just seems like if you ever have any sort of, whether it's depression or anxiety or whatever, there's this kind of stigma about it. People don't want to talk about it because they're embarrassed. I think we have a lot of work to do as far as tearing down that stigma.
It's getting better, but there is still a lot of work, as you said. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think a minute in the Super Bowl to say, hey, it's okay to talk about these things certainly couldn't do any harm.
Okay. So let's say that somehow you get a 2-for-1. What's the stupid thing you want to do? No, I'm curious now.
I don't, I've always been fascinated with the idea of like just putting a web address. Just seeing how many people you could drive to a website by just putting a web address on the screen for a certain amount of time, how many people would actually go there. But then as far as the content when you get there, I mean, I don't know. I love those Super Bowl commercials as much as everybody else. The funny ones are the best. So I might also just come up with something funny to throw some sort of funny concept to go in there.
You could put the PSA on that website.
Yeah, that's true. Just put the website up there, and then the people, maybe you're going to get a little longer message when you get there. So,
well, it's not that silly after all. Right. I was expecting something like wacky or I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've never, I'm sure I could come up with something at some point, but I don't know off the top of my head, something that's anti-Cowboys.
Okay.
Some sort of horrible message about that terrible franchise.
Yeah, terrible owner as well. Yeah, that's a good shout. I can get behind that. As a Giants fan, I can definitely get behind that.
Oh, Patrick.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So,
That's true. That's a good point. There's one thing that Giant fans and Eagles fans can come together on. It's their hatred of the Giants. So their hatred of the Cowboys. That's true. Excellent point. Again, with the positive spin.
I do what I can. All right. So are you good for overtime?
Sure.
All right. Okay, so I got more wacky questions. Question 1. You are going back in time and wind up face-to-face with 15-year-old you. You have 10 seconds before you travel back to the present day. What do you tell your younger self? 10 seconds.
I tell my younger self to learn the guitar because when I was a kid, my parents bought me an electric guitar for some birthday. I think I might have been 12, 13 years old. And again, because I wasn't Eddie Van Halen overnight, I was like, I don't want to, I'm going to bring it back. And my parents even offered me lessons. They were like, we'll send you to lessons if you want to learn the guitar. I was like, nah, no. And I so wish I could play the guitar. So I would go back and I think I would yell at myself, play the guitar, you dummy, and don't give up.
For 10 seconds. 10 seconds of yelling. That works.
Well, listen, I was a stubborn kid, right? So I'd have to say it more than once to make it sink into my thick head.
And it's not too late. You could start.
It's true. And I've thought about it. I've certainly thought about it.
As long as you don't have crippling arthritis or something,
right.
Yeah. It's never too late.
I do. I tinker. Okay. I do have a guitar or two that I play around with.
There you go. Just saying, I don't want to push you in any direction. I'm just...
Yeah, I'll tell you what, give me your number. And when my wife is pissed because I'm buying all this equipment, I'm going to say, talk to Patrick.
Yeah. And I'll pretend I don't speak English. So there you go. Pardon?
Dave who?
Yeah. Je comprends pas. All right. Okay. So question 2. If you could live in anyone's head for 15 minutes, a la being John Malkovich, who would you choose? Past or present for 15 minutes?
I would be Prince. I'd be in Prince's head.
Good shout.
Right? I mean,
good shout.
He was the coolest guy on the planet and could play everything. Like, you get just lost in that guy's brain, I think, as far as just talent and songwriting ability and just being just a super cool guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one's easy.
Excellent answer. No joke. Excellent answer. Question 3. You are on death row. Tomorrow it's curtains, but you get to choose the way you're going to go. You can go big or small, logistics, not an issue. How do you want to go?
How, like the way in which I die?
Yep. You could say I want a nuclear bomb to be dropped on my face. That happens.
Now, so I'm going.
Yes.
Right? It's a foregone conclusion. I know I'm done for.
Yeah, like Steve-O answered. He answered old age. So that's been used up as an answer. You cannot answer that. Right. Tomorrow it's done. It's curtains.
I think if I already know that it's over.
Yes.
I think it would be cool to go out to jump and experience flight.
Okay, jump off a cliff or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and just experience, the sensation of flying. Like I said, if it's over, I know it's over. Yeah, I think it would be cool to experience flight for at least a little bit.
And then pure terror, and then curtains.
And then pure terror as you. What do they say? If you're high enough up, I think you pass out. I don't know if you ever really get to the bottom.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, I've heard that.
I've never done it. So
no, I've never done it either. But I've heard that, and I don't know if that's true.
Right? Isn't that the whole idea of terminal velocity? Like you're dead before you even hit the ground? This is some dark shit, Patrick.
Isn't it terminal velocity? Isn't it the maximum speed that you will reach because air resistance?
It, right? But it's terminal though. Does that mean the end of the speed? Does terminal mean that's as fast as you're going to get?
Yes.
Or does terminal mean?
No, that's the former.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm wrong, but I still think I've heard that you pass out, right? Because the oxygen, you don't get the oxygen.
That's possible, but I mean. I don't think that's where the term
That's not where terminal velocity comes from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think. Again, I might be wrong. And again, I'm sure that there are plenty of people right now screaming at their phones and calling us idiots.
You two dummies, right?
Yes.
You can't even die right, you morons.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm just a podcaster. I'm not a scientist.
Right.
All right.
Right.
Okay, so next question. Your superpower is that you can give phobias to people. So, what do you make people afraid of? You can go evil, you can go wacky, you can go whatever.
I think I make people be afraid of being inconsiderate.
Okay.
It's one of my biggest pet peeves are people who just have no consideration for other people.
You must have so much fun at sports events.
Oh, please. If it were up to me, there'd be no alcohol sales at sport, or you'd only be able to get like one or two.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to drink before they come in, but like, yeah, it's the worst. I wouldn't bring, it's a shame. Like I waited until Matt was 12, 13 years old, I think, before we took him to a Jets game. And like, I've yet to take, part of it's geography, but I've yet to take Julia's an Eagles fan. I've yet to take Julia to an Eagles game just because you never know what you're going to get, right? You sit next to some drunken idiot who, is swearing and screaming and like, who needs it? It just does. It's not. And it definitely falls into that category of like, people just don't care about they have no consideration for others. So yeah, I would make them afraid of being inconsiderate. They'd have to be considerate of their fellow man.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I agree with that for sure. Okay, so question 5. Would you rather win, let's say, $2 million, tax-free, no questions asked, all good, you could retire right away, or wake up tomorrow still in 2021, but 10 years younger?
Oh, man. Okay, so I wake up tomorrow and I'm 38.
Yes.
But
you still know what you know. Physically, you're just younger. You're 10 years younger, but with your same life experience and all that.
But no one else in my life has experienced this time jump. So, like, my wife is still her age. My kids are still their age.
That's correct. But you get to live 10 years more, pretty much.
I'm taking the money.
Huh.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't want to, I don't want to outlive my wife by 10 years, right? Assuming that we both die at the same time, but like...
Yeah, but you would get the chance to hang out with your kids for 10 more years.
That's true.
And your grandchildren, possibly, and all that. So, I don't know. I'm not trying to influence you in either way.
Damn you, trying to force my hand.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like I want those people to also... See, there's a difference, right? I think if you offered me $2 million or the ability to go back to 2011, I might take going back to 2011 because I would love to relive my kids,
the last 10 years,
those years of my kids' lives.
Okay,
because I just loved it to death. It's the thing that I think I've loved the most in my life is just being a dad, being a dad now too, but like those years of my kids' lives, I would love to relive.
Yeah, they fly by apparently.
Oh, they do. They don't. Oh, what was the phrase that somebody said, that the days are long, but the years are fast, I think is what they said. Certainly wasn't me that came up with that, but it's perfect. It's a perfect description.
Yeah.
When you're in it, it feels like it's, that it's like they said, days are long, years are fast. I can't believe my kids are as old as they are.
Oh yeah. So okay. So yeah, I guess I would need a third option for that question.
No. Don't let me twisting your questions change the way you do things.
It's a really good. It's that good. I think I'm going to tweak that question for next time. All right. Yeah. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So question 6: what is the best compliment you've ever received?
American Idol still on TV, but back during American Idol's heyday, the New Jersey Nets did a New Jersey Idol promotion at the Continental Airlines Arena, which is where they played at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent in an audition tape, and they got back to me. And the deal was you got to sing at half. It wouldn't be. I always get it confused between college and the NBA. Jeez, help me out here, Patrick.
NBA 4 quarters.
NBA 4 quarters. Okay.
College 2 halves.
Right. So
I think
during one of the I don't remember which one it was. It was probably halftime. You went out in front of everyone in the arena, and they did this New Jersey Idol thing. So I went out, and the song that, first of all, just the experience of singing for all those people was wild. But I sang a little bit of "I Wish It Would Rain" by the Temptations.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cover of it by a band called Little Caesar that I love, and it was kind of leaned on that version. So I went out and I sang, and I got a great reaction from the audience, but I didn't win. There was another woman there who was frankly better than I was, and certainly more attractive. And so I was walking out. So it was all over, and we were walking out, and there was I don't know if he was, it was like a janitor or he was somebody who was working behind the scenes for the arena. Mm-hmm. And it was an older black man, and he looked at me and he said, "Eddie would have been proud, right? Eddie Ruffin." And who was the other Temptation?
People screaming into their phones yet again. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, "Wow, great story, stupid." Anyway, he was saying that one of the Temptations, one of the singers of the Temptations who had passed away, would have been proud of my performance. And nice. It was just like, wow. Like, that was almost better than even winning the contest. Was this guy telling me, "Hey, you did one of the Temptations proud with that performance." And it was just like, I was like, wow, thank you very much. And so I'd say that's probably the coolest compliment I've ever gotten.
From a complete stranger?
Complete stranger. Yeah.
That's nice.
It was, just a fan of the Temptations, and was like, you did a great job. And now I can't remember the name of the guy that he said. So,
well, I mean, I looked it up. Melvin Franklin.
Nope.
Eddie Kendricks, Paul Williams, Elbridge Bryant, David Ruffin, Dennis Edwards.
That's what it is. There you go. So I'm combining two names. So it was Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin. And I think he said Eddie. I think he said Eddie would have been proud.
Okay. Eddie Kendricks. Yeah. Okay. Died in 92. Okay.
Yeah, that would have been right too, because it would have been like the late 90s that I did it. Late 90s, early 2000s, maybe.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm not good enough with sound editing to squeeze in that
piece it together.
Name into Eddie Kendricks would have been proud. I'm not good enough with Audacity yet. Sorry. All right. So next question. What is your hometown best known for?
Well, it's a weird thing, right? So I grew up in Barrington, mm-hmm. but we were serviced by the Haddonfield Post Office,
okay,
which was the town directly next to us. So it was just a weird situation. So, but Haddonfield is the town of Haddonfield is what the town in the movie Halloween is based on.
Oh, okay.
So one of the creators, or one of the writers, I think it was the writer, I think her name was Deborah Hill. She grew up in Haddonfield. So when they were coming up with, the idea of where they were going to shoot it and what they wanted it to look like, it's called Haddonfield, Illinois. It's in Illinois in the movie.
Okay.
So the town that I grew up in or grew up next to, was the basis of the town in Halloween. And if you go through Haddonfield, New Jersey, it looks like, and then you watch Halloween, like it's the houses and the whole look of it is very similar.
Is there a plaque somewhere that mentions it?
No, I think actually, at least when I was a kid, I don't think the town government of Haddonfield was real happy about that. You don't want to be known. And the weirdest thing is, not only did I live near or in Haddonfield, I also lived right near a Crystal Lake. So
okay.
It's like Slasher Central.
Yeah, exactly. There's good tourism for horror movie fans.
Right.
Nice. Okay, so question 8. Do you like your zombies fast or slow?
I feel like this is a trick question, Patrick.
No, it's not. It's there is no wrong answer.
Well, I would have to. You got to say slow, right? Because you got to be able to get away from them. If they're fast, you're in trouble.
Yeah, but like with slow zombies, there's this sense of impending doom because there are so many of them. You
Well,
know?
we didn't talk now we didn't talk numbers. You just said fast or slow. So fast and few, or slow and many.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the movies go usually. Like slow and few wouldn't make a good movie.
Yeah, that would not be a great one. It would be over very quickly.
Yes.
Well, then maybe I go fast and few, right? Because then you're not, once you get away from them, you're all right for a while. Or once you kill them, you're all right for a while.
Yeah, but they never stay few for long.
That's true.
Like in 28 days later, for example.
Yes. I think then I'll stick with slow.
Yeah.
I think those, like, to me, The Walking Dead, I don't understand. I don't know, man. I'm not in any way, no way am I a proponent of suicide by any stretch of the imagination. But like, if you told me the whole world is populated by zombies, and oh, by the way, when you die, you're going to turn into one, like, what am I living for at that point? Right? If you have any belief that there is an afterlife, like, what are you living for? But I feel like that's a fatal flaw of those shows and movies.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, okay, survival instinct kicks in, I guess, but how long can that take you? Like, after 6 months of complete hopelessness,
exactly,
with your human numbers dwindling.
Yeah, and not only to mention the fact is that practically every other human you come in contact with is just trying to kill you. Like
also that.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just supposed to answer the questions and then shut up, Patrick. I'm making this difficult for you.
That's not a problem at all. Next question. Okay, name me 3 items on your bucket list.
Oh, man. So, one of them I already kicked, right? I sang on stage with Rick Springfield, right?
All right.
I would like to see I'd like to attend an Eagles Super Bowl. I would have loved to have I can't imagine how great it would have been to be at that other one. So I would love to.
You weren't able to get tickets, I guess?
No, I don't. They would have. Super Bowl tickets are astronomical. Yeah. I need the $2 million from that other question in order to get to the Super Bowl.
There you go.
And I mentioned earlier that I'd like to see Italy. I guess that's a realistic kind of bucket list type thing.
Yes.
So that's 3, right?
Yeah, that's good. Good shot. All right. So next question: if you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, language not an issue, who would it be?
I know people tend to go, I think I'm probably supposed to say really influential historical people, but for me,
yeah, you're not supposed to say anyone.
So it's dead or alive?
Yes, and any era. If you say Martin Scorsese during Taxi Driver, that's an answer.
Definitely Prince is invited.
Okay.
I know I keep going back to the Prince but I would.
That's okay.
I would I'd put Prince at all 3 seats, to be quite honest with you. But I put there you go. I would put Prince from the 80s. I'd put Prince from the 90s, and I would put Prince at the 2000s, and I would just sit there and listen to them talk to each other.
Okay.
There's my answer. Well, or actually maybe 70s, 80s, 90s Prince, because he was recording stuff, I think, at the end, I Want to Be Your Lover and stuff like that. I think was late 70s. I'm not sure. But you get the point. Different generations of Prince, all 3.
Yeah, everything is still fresh in their memory during different eras.
Yeah, and I think that I think that they would probably, I don't know, that's just so out there. But the idea of watching the 3 generations of Prince interact with each other, because I think because you had the Prince that was, his stuff with the language and the content was so, I don't know if vulgar was the vulgar's not the word, but Then there was the prince later on who became a Jehovah's Witness who would not swear, who didn't swear at all. So, like, what would the Jehovah's Witness version of Prince say to the version of Prince that was swearing all over the place? Like, that would just be fun to watch.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout. And appendix to that question, what would be on the menu?
I got a feeling the Prince had a limited diet, but
probably. I don't know, but probably.
To me, like, nothing beats a good steak. And it doesn't take a lot to please me. So, a great steak.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, question 12. What is the biggest surprise you've had over the last few months?
There haven't been a whole heck of a lot of surprises over the last couple of months, given the circumstances. But wow, I hate this. I hate not not being able to come up with an answer.
I mean, from a U.S. point of view, I would say that the rollout of the vaccine would be my surprise.
Yeah, how quickly and how successful it has happened, or its creation. That's a good point. Thank you. That it was created so quickly that they were able to get it, where something that in the past has taken so long to do, that they have been able to create it so in such a short, well, I mean, it was a year. It's not exactly short, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a very short period of time.
Who knew that a different president would turn things around? Who knew?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no politics tonight. Not on a Wednesday night. All right, so next to last question. What keeps you up at night?
My mom's 82. So, and she's starting to get to the point where she can't get around as well as she used to, and she still lives down where I grew up. She's about an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours away. So I worry about her. I guess I worry about my kids too, but for the most part, they're, knock on wood, they're really good kids. I don't necessarily worry about them getting into trouble as much as I just kind of worry about them getting hurt or, something like that. But,
I mean, I don't know, but I think every parent does worry to a point, I guess.
Not I know it's cliche, but like it's always said that once you have a child, your entire life changes. That is the absolute truth. Like your perspective on everything is suddenly different. And I just worry. You worry about because they're both at periods in their life where they're the rest of their life is going to start to form. Mm-hmm. So that sort of stuff kind of worries me. But I think as far as keeping me up at night, I do worry about my mom. Her health's not great in some areas too. So that keeps me up at night sometimes.
Okay. Okay. So last question. What is your fork in the road moment? Like the pivotal moment in your life? If there's one. There has to be one.
Oh, there have been multiple forks, but they all seem to be career oriented, right? Where I had a choice to do one thing or the other, and I seem to have chosen wisely. You never know what happens if you go in a different direction, but I've chosen wisely. I think where I've pretty much stayed employed and done okay. I think that's the way I would go. I'm trying to think of major choices that I've had in my life, but that's, I think, the one I would go with, just career wise, whether it was do this job or that job. And none of which were all that crazy or exciting, but it would be work choices.
Okay. It's possible that there is no, like, for example, if you didn't go to that party, you wouldn't have met someone who turned out to be critical to your personal development or something like that,
Well, it's funny you say that because I met my wife at college. Mm-hmm. And the first time I met her, we went to a movie with me and a friend of mine went with Nancy and one of her friends to the movies, and I didn't. And there may actually have been three of us, three guys, and we went with Donna and Nancy to the movies. And I didn't even know Nancy really at all. She didn't know me at all. We actually went to go see A Few Good Men. So if I hadn't gone to that movie, I might have never really met her. There was also a time, same thing. I went to a Denny. You know what Denny's is?
Denise, yes.
I went to a Denny's at the middle of the night with my roommate, my best friend from college, who knew Nancy better than I did. They were all there. He was very friendly with the group of people that, they all hung out together. And I told him, that I liked her and I wanted to ask her out. And he said to me, he's like, "You have no chance." He's like, "You have absolutely no chance. She's completely out of your league. Don't embarrass yourself." And had I listened to him, I wouldn't have been married for almost 25 years with two awesome kids. So that's a better fork in the road for sure. Had I taken his advice, things would probably not gone as nearly as well for me. Thankfully, I did not listen.
There you go.
Yeah. Better answer. Thank you for helping me with that one, because my first answer was lame.
No, it wasn't.
It was not that it was untrue. It was just lame.
Well, I'm glad I could help. All right. So that's the questions. I got to thank you for your time.
Sure. This was fun. Thank you for asking me.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Very much.
Where can we find you online?
My Twitter handle is @dfestini, and that's pretty much it right now.
All right. Okay. So thank you guys for listening, and we will talk again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.